Oh, hold on. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Now I got you. Now I got you.
Okay. Technical difficulties right at the beginning of the show. Gotta love it when that happens. All right, though.
Everything worked in pre-show tests, but here we go.
Yep. It's your boy, Loudmouth from the South, SAJ. A little bit rough for wear, especially from that last game. And I will tell you that um, it was worth it, even with it being a loss. It was nice knowing that four of us were holding it down compared to a group of about what 4 or 5 thousand. I could clearly hear us yelling. Now I don't know if you could hear us on the TV feed. I don't know if we were that loud or not, but I certainly know the QBs were hearing me. So, anyways, uh, it would have been a little bit better if my partner in crime would have been there. But I get it. Somebody has an anniversary that he's got to celebrate.
Yeah,
Happy wife, happy life. We get all that. So,
exactly.
anyways, all that to say, it was a lot of fun. It would have been a lot more fun with you there, but I'm glad you got to celebrate your anniversary and stay married for another year. So happy anniversary, BD and Mrs. BD.
Thank you.
So there you go. Um,
So, you got a
I'm not
studio
coming.
today or no?
I'm not coming from anywhere fancy today necessarily. Um, I wanted to come from someplace cool, but I don't. Uh, the Rent-A-Tire Studios. Remember Rent-A-Tire?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Uh,
Well, that's where I'm coming from today. So
so today, what? Today I'm coming from a kind of a bittersweet studio. Today I'm going to come from the Coach Pop studio. Uh,
oh,
Again, I know this is Texas talking football, but once again, I'm going to start the show with a Texan talking basketball. Anybody who's listened to any sort of news or been on Facebook knows Coach Pop retired from coaching the Spurs late last week. Going to take over president of operations, and you know, I mean, I've been a Spurs fan since I was a little kid. I remember when Pop took over the year David Robinson got hurt, took over for Bob Hill, and just since then, I mean, he's been the best coach ever in the history of the NBA. You hear not only just a great coach, but like people who coach with them. His coaching tree is fantastic, and he's a great man. You hear stories from all the players, all the coaches of all the stuff that he's done, um, helping players going through a hard time, family members sick, family members pass away. He stories of him going to hotel rooms and crying with players, when their parents passed away, just all kinds of stuff, and it's just something that just makes the man. He's just an amazing man, and I think you know. I'm glad he's still sticking with the Spurs, but it's going to suck not seeing him on the sideline anymore. So I just want to say thank you, Coach Pop, for everything you did coaching the Spurs, and look forward to you as El Jefe, president of basketball operations.
and I don't really
And but
care.
you know what? You know what? I'm not completely out of pocket with it because the Brahmas even put up a thank you, Coach Pop status on their Facebook. So it
No,
fits.
yeah, I joke. But when I was trying to get into basketball, I was watching the Spurs. Unfortunately, I mean, it was during kind of the good years, and so it's hard not to get excited when the team that you're not really that connected with is doing good. This is actually something that we're going to lead into a little bit later in the segment. Um, it's hard not to get caught up in that fever, and then when they start falling apart, kind of get disinterested. Um, well, like I said, I'm also not a basketball fan in general, so I don't really find enjoyment in watching the game like most of the basketball fans that do watch it do. So, I do wish the man nothing but the best. I know he's given a lot to the team and to the city and to the game of basketball.
Yeah.
Heck, even going outside of basketball and getting involved in like politics and public events and raising public awareness about causes that he cares about. So the man has done some really great things. and I think he's done just about all he needs to do. Kind of like our Coach Wade Phillips. Um,
Yeah.
it is time for him to kind of focus more on his health. Obviously, because this is kind of a health related issue. So step back, let the guys that are in line handle it. Possibly even Manu, I heard, or somebody like that. Um, but still be connected in the front office and still be part of the group that way. So Pop,
Yeah, and he's still,
nothing
like I
but love
said,
and respect.
president. He's still going to have his fingers in the team, so he's not going away. I want him to get healthy, and but it's gonna be sad not seeing him on the sidelines like officially. So,
Yeah,
but
that's going to be the biggest thing.
enough with Texans talking basketball. Let's get back to Texans talking football.
Yes, exactly. Now, obviously, some things did not go so well for us this weekend. In fact, on our football picks in Horns Forward podcast, I wound up going 0-4, which has not happened at all. Like, I'm not the greatest mind when it comes to football, but I'm usually pretty good at picking the winners versus the losers. And this week, everything was completely upside down.
I went 2
So,
for 2. So
yeah, I think we should probably start out with the Arlington and St. Louis game. Not going to spend a whole bunch of time on it, but we definitely want to kind of dive into this one a little bit because I don't think that score is nearly as indicative of the game that was played. I mean, obviously, it was a very defensive battle, a lot of up and down, back and forth. Uh, it looks like our boy, the king of spring football, coughed up the ball 4 times versus St. Louis only coughing it up once, which is insane, right? Perez usually does not drop the ball, at least not that much, or throw that many picks. Maybe one, maybe two, but this time he threw 4.
well, no,
Pablo
he only
Picasso,
threw one. He only
I'm
threw
sorry,
one pick.
one pick, but 3 fumbles.
Yeah,
Um, and that just kind of doesn't happen, right? So obviously there's some fine tuning that needs to be done on Arlington's side. But here's the thing that bugs me the most about that game. That was Arlington's game to win or lose, right? They pretty much were in control. Even though they were behind, they still were kind of controlling. But it was stupid penalties and fumbles and coughing up, the ball at inopportune times and things like that. And in fact, I think one of the touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, that St. Louis got, wasn't that a scoop score in the second half? I mean, the second quarter. I'd have to go back
I
and
I
look.
believe I believe it was. I watched the game, but I don't have the game memorized. So,
Yeah,
but hey, what's up, Hava? What's up, Rick? Hope y'all are doing well today. Uh,
yeah. And so I do think that there's something to be said about playing in St. Louis and St. Louis having the home field advantage. It's really hard. It's really hard to compete in that stadium, man. Their fans, among other things, they are pretty loud. And all things considered, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm sure it was probably around 20,000, give or take, even with the Stanley Cup playoffs going on.
they announced. I think it was 27. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it was way less than that. But
No, no, John, it's not the 23rd yet, but it will be soon enough. Okay. So that's our friend John, who is, one of the people that we absolutely love up there in St. Louis, and definitely makes it worthwhile going up there to see him and his lovely wife and his 2 boys, who I always seem to wind up getting in trouble with every time I go up there. I don't understand that. Like,
I
I'm almost
mean,
50 years old, and I'm still getting in trouble with 20-year-olds. I don't,
so
think
you're
that's
talking about St. Louis's touchdown. So they only had one touchdown, and it was a pass to Hakeem Butler, who now for the season has caught
that's
3
right.
passes for 3 touchdowns,
Yeah.
which is
And that was
ridiculous.
with, right, but that's also with time being on IR.
Well, yeah.
So explain that, right? Imagine what he would have done had he not been on IR. I mean, this could be a completely different story, and we could be arguing. Now, I will say though, Without Hakeem Butler, much different team, right? They don't play up to that same potential. It doesn't matter who's snapping the ball, who's passing it. Without Hakeem, you've got like your biggest threat, even though they've got sailors and they do have some other weapons there, but Hakeem's the one who really kind of helps. Uh, uh, I'm sorry, I got distracted by Havo's comment. I didn't know how he found out about my legal middle name. Um, but he's talking about this right here, folks. Um, will you let me show it? Um, but again, um, without Hakeem on the field, you don't spread the field nearly as much. Defense the offense is easier to control by your defense, especially if you have a good defense like Arlington normally does. This game, it was a little bit tougher. But again, I'm really surprised that it wound up going down 12-6 the way it did. So what were
Yeah.
your kind of thoughts on that game?
I mean, it was kind of a slow game, uh, and just kind of like what you said, Arlington, they looked sloppy for the whole game. I mean, they didn't score anything until the fourth quarter, and it just it I don't know. They didn't look crisp. They just kind of looked off for a little bit. So, uh, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. So again, not what we expected. I definitely expected Arlington to be in a dogfight with St. Louis, but for them to kind of walk away in the second half because they've looked so dominant for the most part this year. So I'm not sure if this is telling me that St. Louis is a better team than what we originally expected, or if Arlington is on the downhill slide, as you had kind of alluded to like last night. So we'll have to see after this week how they play. Do they bounce back? If they bounce back, do they bounce back in epic fashion? Or do they scrape the bottom of the barrel and just barely get by? Or do they take another L?
No,
Right. So we'll have to see what happens there. Um that Memphis Houston game, that was actually a really fun game to watch. Uh I watched that one on the road driving to Birmingham and kind of hard to watch when it's on the dash, but it definitely sounded like there was a lot of action. Did you get to catch that game at all?
I did. Yeah, I was watching the game. It was entertaining. You know, Memphis, they had a slow first quarter, but kind of came out that second, um, and just took the lead to halftime. But third quarter, Houston came back, and I mean, I think we've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks, but Jalen McClendon, man, he looks good. He's been real impressive for Houston. I definitely think they found their QB1. Um, and it's kind of I'm sure Houston fans wish he kind of would have been there available and playing like this the whole season. So they might have a better record than what they do, but they're on an uphill trend. But it was definitely an enjoyable game.
What's up, Marcos? Good to see you, man. Yeah, I've got to say again, the parts that I got to watch, it was not it was not an unentertaining game. Unlike I mean, and not that the St. Louis game wasn't unentertaining, but there was a heck of a lot more action. There was a lot more
Yeah.
offense, a lot more bigger plays, if you will, at times when it counted on the defense, and it was just a lot of fun. So going to the stats because you know how we love stats here. First of all, very surprised. Memphis put up 287 yards, 213 in the air. Right. Houston put up 209, 149 in the air. Penalties really did seem to hurt Memphis a little bit. Uh, they're they did cough up two, right? One interception, one fumble, it looks like. And the quarterback only got sacked once, which is amazing because we don't know what it's like for our quarterback not to get sacked, right? But again, just a pretty impressive game overall. McClendon had a really good game. Wynn had a very good game. And I think Wynn is like what their second or third quarterback for Memphis.
Second for sure because I started with EJ Perry. I can't remember if they've had somebody else play since then, but I mean, Wynn didn't look bad. 22 of 34 for just over 200 yards. Uh, you know, it, he looked pretty decent. So
Yeah, it was.
we were saying,
It was
the costly sack that he got. Yeah,
yeah. So again, really good game. I was surprised to see Houston. I mean, you were right. Hey, what's up, Vanessa? Good to see you. Um, I was surprised to see that um, Houston. I mean, Houston's at least in the argument for being a legit team, right? I know they've had some issues with the coaching and quarterback and getting things figured out, but they are definitely, you called it, man. They're on the upswing, they're on the surge, and I thought for sure Memphis would have been, and they just didn't have enough gas in the tank to take out the Houston Roughnecks. So that's another one in the win column for you, man.
yeah. I
I
picked
think,
you. I picked Houston last week. Their real test is coming up this week in their division. They've got Birmingham, who they played tough a couple weeks ago when they played. So it's interesting to see how because I think that was McClendon. That was when he first jumped in the game. He didn't start. He came in midway through. Now with the week of practice and all that, how is he going to play Birmingham? Who like we were watching when we were in DC. Houston almost beat him last time, so we'll kind of interested to see how Houston fares this weekend.
yeah.
I'm picking Birmingham, but it'd be nice to see a Houston win.
Yeah, I'm hoping you're kind of wrong on that one also. Meanwhile, our friends up north handled business heartily, like there was no question. I turned that on because we were actually getting ready to go to our game in Birmingham and kind of forgot, right? Because in the rush of everybody kind of getting ready and trying to get down early for the tailgating, which we missed. And I do apologize about that. Our new Birmingham friends. Um, but this DC Michigan game, man, DC was on fire, and I feel bad for our DC friends, but there wasn't ever really a point where it looked like uh, Michigan was not in control of this game. Here's what's
No,
really surprising, though, right? DC put up 14 points, but they had 325 yards of total offense, right? 259 yards in the air. No fumbles, no turnovers.
no,
Uh,
they had they had two fumbles, none lost, but yeah.
uh,
I'm sorry, no, that was Michigan. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong
that's
column. That's my
Michigan.
bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
Uh, that's okay. Uh, the time of possession was somewhat balanced, right? Um, but again, just Michigan just went out and handled business. So I really think two things, right? Michigan is the real deal. And to reflect back on something that Jorge said last night, that it looks like Houston is the Michigan of this season, right? Michigan was slept on last year and made it deep, right? They almost made it into the playoffs. This year, everybody was kind of counting Houston out. They've turned it around and they're making a real big, strong push. So I would not be surprised if they're in the mix, week 8, week 9, threatening for that championship, the conference championship game, or if they don't already have it sealed up. So
You're talking
I
about
believe you're
Houston,
right.
right?
Yeah, Houston.
Houston, yeah. I mean, it looks like it's going to be you know, Michigan, Birmingham, and Houston are going to be fighting for those two playoff spots. So I'm looking forward to kind of how the season is going to play out for USFL.
What is up, Tutem Bramasita? Much love. We miss you, sis.
So, and really, I didn't really get to watch a whole lot of that game. I watched the first half, but that was our actual anniversary. So we were out. We went to the movies. We did a bunch of stuff. Um, so I got to watch the first half of the game, and I was just kind of following along. But I know we talked about it a little last night. But my God, Bryce Perkins is super impressive. I mean, he is right now major league in major lead for a league MVP right now. I mean, he had what 2 touchdowns passing. He had a third rushing. Um, I mean, and just some of the rushing plays that he made, just absolutely throwing defenders off of him, stiff
Mhm.
arming them. Like you don't see a quarterback doing that stuff. So it's been these last few weeks. He's really since we kind of saw him on our game. He's been impressive as hell, and it just goes to think like the first what 3-4 games of the season, the Michigan coach was doing a dual quarterback system, and you're like, why are you taking this guy off of the field? You know,
Well, I mean, I get it from the coach's standpoint because Bryce hadn't quite blossomed into the player that he is right now. So I understand doing that. But had he shown that earlier and been in those games longer, I mean, who knows where he'd be
I mean,
right now?
he showed it in our game. He showed it the week after, and I think the week after was the one where they finally decided that they weren't going to do the quarterback because they put the other guy in. I forget the kid's name and threw a pick right away. But he was rotating him in our game, and it just kind of it was night and day difference for Michigan offense when Perkins is in there. So
Yep.
I just I'm glad their coach finally decided that okay, no, this is who we need to stick with.
Yeah, let the young man eat because he's doing quite well. So, but yeah, and Rig, I mean, you're right. You got to play him twice. Those are going to be some tough games, man. You guys are gonna be in for a fight, man. So be ready for it. Speaking of people ready for a fight, obviously San Antonio was not. Okay. Um, Here's a couple of takeaways, right? First and foremost, um, our defense our defense looked good for the most part the first half of the game. Okay, they didn't look great, but they looked good. They looked like they could keep us in contention if our offense would have put some numbers up. Okay, the second half, I think everybody was already gassed, and I mean I hate to say it, but it feels like there were players that were giving up. I know I saw some things on the field that specifically made me think that there were certain players that had given up on the game. I'm not going to mention them by name because I'm not going to do that. And they know who they are, so they know who I'm talking about. So it's not like this is a big surprise or anything like that. However, um, if I were in their position, I'm going to be honest. I think I would be getting a little bit frustrated also, especially if I'm laying everything on the line, doing everything I can, um, and the people around me aren't really doing their part. And it just gets, kind of to where it just doesn't really matter. Now, I will
Yeah,
say, I
I
was
mean,
talking to coach.
to your point, I'll say to your point for the defense. I mean, the first most of the first half, defense played great. They only held them to 1 touchdown until that very last drive. It was within 2 minutes they scored. But by that time, the offense had only had just a handful of drives and had done nothing with it. I mean, just punt, missed field goal, and the first drive was a missed field goal, and then just nothing but punts the rest of the half until that very, very last drive. So, you only had a handful of plays to take off if you're the defense. So really, as much as they were out there, man, they were giving everything they had, and eventually if you're the defense and you're out there on the field the entire game or the entire half, you're going to get tired. And they got wore down.
So we've talked about it, right? Right now, we don't really have much of an answer for, who our quarterback is. I do think it's worth mentioning that, there's a lot of people saying that Mond isn't it, and I'm not necessarily saying that he's it either, but I do think it's worth mentioning that right now he is number 5 for total yards for the season at what, 500 and something, and he didn't even play last week. Right?
Yeah, he's fifth in the league in passing yards, which you've got Perez, Perkins, and Teamu that are like the top 3. They've all played about every game, and so after that, you've got quarterbacks that have gotten hurt, stuff like that. So statistics are still a little skewed, but we've been saying it the whole time. Like, it really doesn't matter who the quarterback is if the offensive line's not going to block the defense. And, we've been seeing it. Hogan looked good. He attempted more downfield passes than what we've seen, previously in the games, which is good. They were trying some quick outs, some screens and stuff like that. But, once again, John Trey, dropping a pass, wide open pass. Everybody's seen it. Everybody saw him sitting in the bleacher afterwards. Our favorite, receiver Harris dropped another pass. It's just the quarterback can only do so much, and if the line's not blocking for him and receivers aren't catching the ball, there's not much you can. What else do you expect him to do?
Yep. And I think it's worth noting that while these numbers are not great, they're not phenomenal numbers. These are not horrible numbers. Hogan went 17 to 26 for 179 yards, and he had a 65% accuracy rating. Not horrible, okay? But again, if you don't have guys open, I'm sorry, if you can't get the ball snapped fast enough and get it to an open receiver before a defensive back comes crashing in on you because your line isn't holding, it's hard to get good numbers. When you find
I want to say he started the game like 7 for 7, 8 for 8, or something like that, or the first part of the game. Yeah,
but they were all quick passes.
They were, but the defense kind of made some adjustments and took those away, and then they started getting their hands up. They started expecting those, and so it's.
It's also worth mentioning that McFarland got hurt in the game too. So there went like the bulk of our running game, which then screws up our game plan. And so, we had a total of 24 yards on the ground, right?
Actually, he took 3 sacks.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, but I get it. I get what Havo's saying.
Yeah, but he looked to get the ball out a little quicker than what we've previously seen from Mond, who I think he's a bit more has to go through the thought process. I don't know if Mond is kind of a quick react quarterback. He kind of has to see stuff develop, and if you've got a line that can hold, it works. But in something like this where you've got to make quick decisions, I just hadn't seen that from Mond previously. Garantano a little bit, but even still, he was, kind of afraid to kind of take those deep passes quickly, which Hogan, he had no problem chunking it. So I like seeing that.
Well, I think there's something to be said also, though, about the fact that Hogan has more experience, right? Hogan was our backup quarterback last year. He did come in for at least one game, and
he won us the Houston game.
Yeah, he's got some chemistry there with some of the receivers, but not all of them, because most of the receivers that we have are new. But yeah, overall, I think Hogan did good, all things considered. this was not the game that we expected. And I'm going to be honest, this was kind of another embarrassing loss. But I don't think it falls on just one person or, one aspect of the game, right? Um, we're just not there. We're not the same team as what we were last year, which brings up an interesting point that Coach and I had talked about at lunch. First and foremost, we should never expect to be the same team as what we were
I
last
just
year.
want to. You're talking about Coach Tom, our friend, not
Coach
not
Tom,
like
yeah.
not
Not
like Coach Party or anything like that. So
no,
just
no, 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 no. Right. Our coach, not the team's coach.
yeah,
Um, First and foremost, you should never expect to be the same team as what you were last year because that's not the intention of this league. Birmingham was kind of a fluke to have two back-to-back championships under the USFL and not lose very many of their players at all. Have most of those transfer over into the UFL. Um, and you're right. Well, now it's three because you're here. So, um, but again, Birmingham is kind of this fluke situation because most of those players are not supposed to be coming back to the UFL. They're supposed to be working on going forward, right? That was the whole purpose of spring football. And Birmingham has a lot of people camping out, right? So we had to expect some attrition there and some, you know, getting to learn new players, new plays. We've had all the coach situations that we've had. Um, it it's expected, or it should be expected, that we're going to run into patches like this, right?
yeah,
But then the other thing is, again, look at the nature of what we're doing here. Okay, these are folks that are trying to sharpen their skills and get either into the NFL or back into the NFL, right? There are a couple of lifer players out there. I know that there's at least one on the Brahma squad who is not going to get called up by the NFL, and he's okay with that. But he still wants to keep playing. He has that much of a love for the game that he wants to keep playing, and he wants to keep playing at a high level. So he's here, right? And that's fine, right? If that's what makes him happy in life, then by all means, go for it. But we can't expect to have this championship caliber team year after year after year because most of these guys are playing, let's be honest, for themselves. Yeah, granted, they're going to play uh, for some of the teammates that they have connections with and things like that. Definitely playing their hearts out for Coach Wade, uh, but more probably because of building that connection with him and everything, so he can then pass on a good word. But we can't exactly expect these guys to come out and be, every single person be an all-star all the time and just dominate this league, right? I think those are kinds of unrealistic expectations. So maybe we need to kind of realign our expectations a little bit.
well,
Um,
I do think we had, and rightfully so, we had high expectations coming into the season because we had our defense basically came back. Very few people left the defense. We had Wade, who is a defensive coach. We expected the defense to be dominant like it was last year. Now we know Wade's had health issues all season long. That's affected the team. And now as much as Party is trying as best as he can, we got to remember this is a 28-year-old kid. I mean, he's like half of our age basically, and
mhm.
he was a position coach that was thrown into offensive coordinator role, and the very week that he was named offensive coordinator, he had to act as head coach because Wade was sick in the locker room, and then the next week was promoted to head coach because obviously Wade stepped back. So
Right.
he's learning just as much as the all the players, all the new players are. So, you know, like you said, we have to temper our expectations. We can't expect a championship squad with, the a coach who's his first time being a head coach. I mean, there's a reason they're saying he's the youngest head coach in professional football, 28. Or I think any professional sports, I think they said, you know?
Hmm.
And so it's frustrating. I get that, but man, we gotta maybe chill out a little bit here.
Right. Now, Uh, some silver lining stuff to talk about, right? Um, we did hear that there were going to be some changes, some shakeups, and we're seeing that happen as of today. Well, yesterday and today. Uh, as of oh no, actually, this was all today, wasn't
Well, no.
it?
So last night the Brahmas made two moves. They traded Darius Phillips to Memphis for D. Anderson. Uh,
Mhm.
Looking at Anderson's stats, because really all I care about is can the dude catch the ball. Uh, Looks like for the season he's made 15 receptions for 182 yards, one touchdown. Uh, his longest pass is a 78 yarder, so that kind of skews that 182 number. But you still kind of take that away, and you're at about seven yards a catch. So and 15 receptions in 5 games, so the guy can catch the ball. I
Yes.
don't see he was
Um,
targeted. Do what?
well, I was just going to say, I didn't get a chance to even look up the targeting numbers, but he definitely wasn't targeted much more than what he actually caught. So if you've got the numbers, cool.
He was targeted 27 times. So
Okay.
you know uh, who knows?
So
I mean,
really,
obviously, not watching every Memphis game or detail. I don't know if they were drops or if they were just bad passes. So he did have
right,
12 targets that he didn't catch, but I mean that's still probably better than a lot of the receivers we've got right now. Uh,
true.
so I think he's actually going to be a pretty good addition. I'm excited to kind of see what he can do. Um,
Right.
Next move we made
And
last night. Were you
well,
talking about?
hang on.
Okay,
I want to talk about Phillips. What we gave up for this receiver really is actually a pretty good deal for us. Phillips was a pretty decent cornerback, but he only played 4 games. He did have a pretty good amount of tackles. I think he had at least 4 tackles for losses. Um, Memphis is getting a pretty good cornerback out of the deal, but it shouldn't really affect our defense much because, again, like I said, this guy's only played or he only started 4 games. So we're giving up a little bit to hopefully pick up an offensive weapon to help us out on offense where we need it the most. So I think that was a pretty good trade off there. Now,
no, I definitely agree. I mean, we need some wide receiver help, so it's good to see that move. The other move they made was they cut the guard Greg Eland. And this is James Larson. He made the post last night about it. And it's absolutely true. Eland has not been the same player for San Antonio he was a year ago. I think it's the whole offensive line. I mean, it can be said for every one of them, but and I think a lot of it has to do with we had Coach Dre last year, and old Deion Sanders had to go poach him away from us. Um, but offensive line struggling, and I think Eland's one of the ones he's been struggling a lot. So the Brahmas released him, and then today they picked up another offensive lineman.
yep.
So,
And
you want to talk
that's
about who we picked up?
yeah, it's Lamont Gaillard from DC. We picked him up off of injured reserve. I'm a little nervous about that, only in the sense that, is this person injury prone? But he's an absolute phenomenal guard, which is what we need. Obviously, our offensive line is having a lot of problems, and we've just been struggling. I'm trying to see if I can bring up the post from the Brahmas about this guy's stats. Actually, you put it in Messenger, so I could just find it there.
Yeah, I put it in our chat.
Um,
It just he
10
played 10
games
games with
in the
DC
last two
and
seasons,
started 5.
uh, started in 5. He was, again, on the IR with DC for the last couple of weeks, but this could be the opportunity that he needs. And another thing that Coach Tom and I talked about at lunch, um, offense or offensive linemen, I should say specifically, are extremely hard to find. Okay. I mean, they're hard enough to find under normal circumstances. when you're in, mid-season struggling, trying to find a whole entire new offensive line, it's almost impossible. So this is a great pickup for San Antonio, because he should be a really good addition to our squad, but also because we need it. But that may also help strengthen some of the other players around them to be like, hey, you got to do your job. No more excuses. Do your job. Hold the freaking line. I don't care what you got to do.
Yeah.
Give him the old Texas twister, fingers in the nose, right? Give him a little wet willy. Whatever you need to do, hold the damn line. Okay. And I don't think there's any rules that say you can't do that, right? It's not like a personal foul or anything. It's personally offensive, but
like personal foul, wet willy.
But again, I really think this is a key pickup. Is it going to make a difference? I guess we're going to have to wait and see. Is it going to matter in the long run? Right? Like, does this give us the break that we need to maybe get into the playoffs? I'm not going to put that kind of pressure on the team. I'm not going to get that wound up about it. Right?
I mean,
I
look,
want to put a solid product on the field.
We talked about it last night. I mean, for all intents and purposes, we're basically out of the playoff race unless there's an epic collapse by both Arlington and St. Louis, which is possible because it's Arlington and St. Louis. But I'm not holding on hopes for playoffs. I just, like you said, I want to be competitive. I want to, each team that we go to play, I want to ruin their weekend. And if St. Louis and Birmingham are in Arlington collapse and we make it in, dude, that'd be just icing on the cake. But I'm lowering my expectations for the season. I'm just there to have a good time now.
As long as St. Louis collapses, I'll be happy as can be. Okay, I would love to see Arlington and DC make it into the XFL championship game. That would make me happier than anything, right? And yes, Necessary Roughness. Watch it. Great movie, right? But there's something else that would kind of make me happy. And I think I'm going to let you run with this segment. But I think we need to talk about our fan base and some of the comments that I've been seeing from people lately. And something that we could do to make me happy about that. So take it away, my man.
So, we really haven't been doing these too often. Our do better segments. I know you had one a couple weeks ago. But really, I mean, we're kind of slacking on our do betters. But you know what? I got one for you this week. And my do better is the San Antonio fans, specifically the Facebook fans. For the Brahmas. I see these posts and I see these comments. Oh, this, it's a terrible team. We're it's not worth watching. Oh, I wasted my money. Oh, there's only going to be 2,000 people at the Dome now. There's definitely a part of critiquing your team, making criticisms, obvious stuff. I mean, we do it on the show. We did it last night. There's stuff that you need to talk about that the team can be better at, and that's all fair. What I have a problem with is the whining and the bitching, and it's just the complaining just to complain. And all you're doing is you're making the product, the team, look bad on Facebook, for social media. We're supposed to be trying to be ambassadors for this league, trying to build it up, try to build momentum and stuff, get people to come see it. And they see these idiots that are complaining and saying that's not even worth going. Oh, I'm wasting my money going to a game. It's ridiculous. I said it last night. I have never been to a UFL game where I've had a bad time. I've been to a bad championship game that we played. The Houston game that we went to a couple weeks ago, we were bad in. The whole 2023 season, we were losing, but I had a blast at every single game that I went to. And I will continue to have a blast at every single game that I go to. It's not a waste of money. It's not, It's not useless, pointless. It is a fun time. And be a good fan. Support your team through thick and thin. Don't be a bandwagon fan. I know San Antonio is known for bandwagon fans. We've seen it. Hell, we talked about the Spurs earlier. We've seen it with the Spurs. Championships. The AT&T Center was full. Lose a few seasons. It's easy to get tickets. Wemby gets drafted. Hey, stadium's full again. We're not winning as much. The stadium drops down. San Antonio is full of fair weather fans. I see it all the time, but we've got to be invested in the Brahmas, in the team, to support it. We talked about it last night on Horns Forward. The Cleveland Browns, the worst team in the history of the NFL. They have an amazing fan base, even though the team has sucked forever. That's the kind of fan base that we need to be. Even years that we suck, because as long as this league is around, there are going to be some years that we suck, like year one, like what we're getting this year, but still support your team. That's it. San Antonio fans, do freaking better.
DD has been a lifelong Cowboys fan. I've been a lifelong Packers fan. We have suffered under some of the worst atrocities that a team can do to us. Okay, 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, 2 Super Bowls to show for it. BD's got arguably at least 1 Hall of Fame quarterback. Okay, and Jerry Jones at the helm, still loyal, still a fan. Hates everything that he does, but he keeps coming back every single game for another dose of punishment. This is our challenge.
Hey, this is our year.
Yeah. This is our challenge to you, San Antonio. Get behind the team. Let them know, hey, this is not exactly what we expected, but we're still here and we're still going to support you. That giving that back to the players gives them the drive, the desire, the hunger to want to get out there. There are guys that are out there that you could call them the absolute worst piece of garbage on earth, and they're still going to go out there and work. But there's other guys that are going to hear that and say, well, what the hell am I sacrificing for? Why am I doing this? These people don't even care, right? You flip that narrative, and they become one of the hardest working people in the room. So give them that energy back, okay? And
absolutely
not calling anybody out, but I've heard some comments about, this is a waste of money. Don't even go to it. Go to this other league, whatever. One of the leagues that they're talking about, supposed to be starting their schedule really soon. They haven't even released their damn schedule yet, and they've only got 4 teams in the league. So let's not try and do an apples to apples comparison, because you're not comparing real apples here, okay? There's plenty of sports teams here. We can give love to all of them. That's what our show is about, right?
Exactly.
Don't bash one product and call it the worst on the planet just because you're not getting what you want out of it, which is this championship team every single time. Get behind the team and support it thick and thin, right? And I'm saying this completely 100% dedicated. I'm inked up. Jorge's inked up. BD, if we could talk him into it, he would do it too, right? I'm not asking you guys to go out and get tattoos. Just show up to the game and support the team, man. That's all we're asking. Okay.
Yeah. Show up to the game and have a good time.
Stop talking about how it's a waste.
I mean,
come hang out with us.
Show up and have a great time. Even if we lose, you're gonna have a great time. I mean, have you ever had a bad time at a game?
Not a single one. Not a single. I've had.
We've left games upset. We've left games upset because we lost or because of whatever, or Matt. But during the game, we have a blast. Absolutely amazing time. So
had some of the best football experiences of my life because of this league. Even 2023, when we had, a not great year. Arguably, this is probably a worse year, but we got to do things like be in the Fiesta Flambeau parade. We got to meet Hines Ward face to face, not just at the meet and greet, but actually talk to him and watch our little group move away. And then after the people stopped paying attention to Hines Ward, he came over and talked to us. Like, didn't go back to him. he came back and talked to us. Um, the 8 Mile Hotel, like we've got so many stories that are going to last a lifetime because of this little experiment called spring football, right? We're just asking you guys to jump in and be a part of that. Come hang out, have a good time, drink a beer, listen to Milton, get everybody all hyped up and everything, and just just jump on, man. Just come with us, right? Come have a good time.
And
That's all we're asking.
and Tim, I was actually going to go get it when they all went, or I was supposed to, but I actually had something else planned with the wife that weekend out of town, so I wasn't able to. But I do plan on getting one this off season. So
he had anything else planned that weekend. Anyways, so yes, and this is true. Best experience,
yep.
come hang out with us and our 7 Renegade fans that are going to show up, and I'll sleep in a 1 bedroom Airbnb. It's going to be rowdy. It's going to be so much fun. But we're very excited.
Potato salad tacos just for you, Tim.
Yes. So this Friday, be there. I know tailgating is going to be really tough. We'll go over all those games in a little bit. Let's flip the script over to the IFL. Obviously, San Antonio Gunslingers did not play this weekend, which is probably a good thing for them. They are going to be playing the Vegas Nighthawks in Vegas this weekend, right? Riggs got it right here.
Absolutely.
Another team. Don't give up on San Antonio Gunslingers. They have faced a lot of adversity the last 2 years. They went from the National Arena League last year to the Indoor Football League, which is arguably the premier league. They stepped up in competition because they believed that they had the talent for it. Had a little bit of a rough year. Okay. Year 2, lost the star quarterback, lost the head coach. They're suffering from a lot of losses. This year probably isn't going to necessarily be the best year for them, but they still have a chance to turn it around. So if the Brahmas aren't playing, go check out a Gunslingers game. Now I'm not asking.
We're only at week 8, and there's 19 weeks of IFL football, so there's still Gunslingers have plenty of time to turn it around. So yeah, definitely don't just like with Brahmas, don't give up on them. Go out there, go support them, go watch. Like I said with the Brahmas games, the Arena League games, those are a lot of fun. So it's a blast too, man. Go check out those games as well.
Show up, come have some fun. Over the National Arena League, it looks like Beaumont has decided that they're taking over the league. They just played Shreveport. They played Shreveport this last weekend, and that looks like that was a dogfight of a game. But Beaumont wound up last second touchdown and absolutely dominated that game. Again, that's over in the National Arena League. But pardon me. With this win, Beaumont now advances to 5-0, and the next closest competition is 3-2. So they are making a big statement in the National Arena League. Their quarterback, let me bring up his information. Carl Robinson III. He went 11-17. 169 yards, which averaging about 15 yards a pass, 6 passing touchdowns. This kid was on fire. So, and that's not to take anything away from Shreveport's quarterback, but he went 15-27, 167 yards, but he threw 2 picks, and he only had 5 touchdowns. So, again, it looks like Beaumont is just completely walking away with this. Now, over to Arena Football 1 with the Corpus Christi Tritons. I don't believe they played this weekend.
They did not play. I think they needed to take a break off after their loss the week before, by 88 points.
Yes.
They're on the schedule to play for this next week coming up.
And right, and there was that whole controversy. Someone say they scored 11 touchdowns. Yes, just about right. There's that controversy still going on that's under investigation. Supposedly, several of the players had not been paid by the organization. They actually may have been played by the organization. But we don't know anything yet. The investigation is still ongoing. Hopefully, they find out that that's not the case. But if it is the case, hopefully they find a way to make restitution to those players because I know that they were balling out and they were giving everything that they've got. Now,
You
unfortunately,
know,
Corpus isn't going to bounce back from something like that, though.
yeah. We'll see how they, what kind of team they field this week. I know last week the reason they lost so bad was because it was a lot of second stringers and backup players and stuff like that, just because of whatever circumstances. So, obviously, we love Corpus. We hope whatever's going on gets figured out. They get to stay in the league. They get to be competitive again because they were at the start of the season. So hopefully they can get back to that point. I was going to mention I pulled up the AF1 website and kind of got greeted with an interesting article. John Gruden joined the Nashville Cats ownership group.
That's
That's
good
that's
for the league.
That is, it's interesting, because obviously, um, mine just went blank. Mr. 9 and 7, Jeff Fisher.
Oh, yeah,
He,
Fisher.
he's the commissioner of the league. So, we're getting some big name NFL players kind of ingrained in this league. We've talked a lot about, whether the league will fail or succeed or what's going on. Bigger names will only help.
Yes. But curb your enthusiasm a little bit because remember, the AAF had Charlie Ebersol and some other really big names involved, including one Troy Aikman. And Heinz Ward was
No,
involved.
Aikman
Troy
wasn't
Aikman was
involved.
Aikman
No,
was
Moose
involved
Johnson
in
was
some
involved.
right, but Aikman was involved in some capacity also. Remember, he was at our home game. He opened up the season.
I
So,
don't
and
I don't
then
remember him being.
Ward was part of our coaching staff. There were some really big names involved in the AAF, and it fell apart because of financial issues. But that goes back to Dundon and Ebersol, right? You make a
Yeah.
deal with the devil, right? He's going to come calling for his dues. So I don't think that that's going to be the case with Gruden here. I'm hoping that brings some more stability to the league. Hopefully, again, they get some of that Corpus stuff figured out. I am worried about Corpus bouncing back because if you go back to the April 29th transactions, Corpus dumped quite a few of their players. They just released them, including their kicker and a wide receiver. Kicker and wide receiver were placed on suspension. Um, but trying to see if there's any more. No, it just looks like that for right now. Uh, Oh, and then on May 1st, the kicker and wide receiver were released by Corpus. So they've given up quite a few of their players, at least like 8 or 9. And considering those rosters aren't that big, that could be pretty detrimental. But maybe they're making some signings in the next couple of days to kind of figure things out. And Tim, I mean, come on,
I
everybody's
just
important.
I just read that
Okay?
as like, not the kicker.
Yeah, everybody's important. Now, let's switch over to the IFA real quick. But we still have no news.
Yeah,
So,
where's the schedule at? Aren't they supposed to be kicking off, in like 2 weeks or something?
yep, end of May, beginning of June is the when they're supposed to be kicking off. We definitely have started May, and I haven't seen a thing yet. Okay.
Yeah.
How hard is it going to be to produce a schedule for 4 teams? So, as much
Flip a
as
coin. That's where you're playing this week.
huh?
I said flip a coin. That's where you're playing this week.
Exactly. Um, I'm hopeful they can figure some things out and maybe make something out of this season. Uh, but I'm going to be honest, with only 4 teams, and we still don't even know if the team from Mexico is even involved in the league or not. They're talking about expansions in 26, right? We've got supposedly 4 teams. Uh, they're playing over yonder on those days. I mean, pretty much, yeah. Um, Supposedly there's 4 teams in the States, one in Mexico. I don't think that that's the case. I don't know that Ohio Valley is still involved. I just don't think they've taken them off the website yet. Um, but again, the comparison between a league that hasn't even released its schedule yet to a league that's in year 3 now, well, year 2 anyways, with a year prior to that, not really comparing apples to apples. So let's not do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, fingers crossed, because we want everybody that's involved to be successful, right? It's not the player's fault. It's not the coach's fault. Um, and those are the ones that are going to be suffering the most, just like kind of the situation with Corpus, right? It's the players, it's the fans, it's the people that have invested in this that are the ones that wind up suffering. So fingers crossed, hopefully they can figure that out. Anyways, okay, let's go over the games. Obviously, we've got a huge game this weekend against DC at home. It's going to be our second home game. It is a Friday night game. Tailgating is going to be a little bit rough, but tailgating is still happening. So if you can get down to the Alamo Dome at 4, you should be able to get in. You
Yeah.
can tailgate there, no problem. We're going to bar gate just because we've got people to transport all over the city, and we probably won't be able to make it there until like 5:30 at the earliest. But if you want to bar gate with us, we're going to be over at Smoke Sky Lounge. You guys are more than welcome to show up. All the details should be
I'll be
on our
there. I'll be
homepage
there about
podcast page.
4, but so I'm leaving work early. But
Okay.
I like
If you
said,
can make it, that's awesome.
absolutely. Come have a beer with me. So and like I said, I mean
And I'll
there
try and
is
be
still
there.
tailgating available for anybody who's able to get down there, get everything set up. We just like Jay said, just kind of easier for us on this Friday. Just with everything, we're gonna borrow from our DC fans in Bargate. So
Yep. Then of course, where was I at? Arlington's got a huge game this weekend on Saturday against the Panthers. This is going to be a tough game for them, so it should be a pretty good game to watch. Houston, of course, has a huge game against Birmingham. Is Birmingham going to come out firing on all cylinders, or are they going to struggle? And does Houston have the gas to be able to overtake them? Right. And then, of course, St. Louis is playing Memphis at home. Probably not going to be that big of a game, but Memphis has shown fight. They've shown some fire. So
yeah,
maybe this is an opportunity, and I'm hoping and praying that they've got the gas to be able to knock St. Louis down a peg and really mix up that XFL, standings. So
I mean,
those are
I
kind of the
picked
games.
St. Louis, but I'm really hoping I'm wrong. So
Yep. Well, and I'm going to be honest. I picked against San Antonio. One of the first times that I've done that. I picked DC, but I'm hoping that. Well, I'm sorry, the second time. Not. I didn't pick. I picked San Antonio again in the DC game.
you did, but you picked Michigan to beat us week 3.
I did, but I was right, wasn't I? So, um,
No,
that part doesn't
still,
matter. Again, I'm hoping. I'm hoping the reverse jinx works. I'm hoping that we handle DC at home hardly, especially with our best friend not being there. We don't get to tease Bellamy now, and I was so looking forward to that. So now we're gonna have to
I
find
know, dude. He had to go join Houston. I don't think we talked about that. He had to go join Houston the week after we played Houston, so we couldn't even say hi to him.
Mm-hmm. So for the Birmingham folks, make sure you look for number 19, Bellamy. He probably isn't 19 anymore, but tell him, SAJ and BD.
Well, he was 7 this year. He was 17 before. Then he was 7 this year, and I don't know what he's wearing for Houston, but yeah,
who knows? But hopefully he finds success over there, even though we're going to tease the hell out of him regardless. But again, some great UFL games. Hopefully some upsets, right? Hopefully ours is an upset. We really want to see that. Let's see who else is going to be playing. Beaumont's going to be playing Saturday in Wheeling, wherever Wheeling is. San Antonio, of course, is going to be playing this Saturday in Vegas, and Corpus will not be playing. But again, tons of football. He's number 11 on Houston. I'm gonna get a jersey just for him that says Bellamy, number 11, right? Just because of you, Tim. Um, but yeah, again, there's tons of football, tons of stuff to watch, tons of stuff to do. Make sure you're doing your part. If you can't make it to the game, turn the game on, right? The ratings matter. Viewership brings in dollars, which helps keep this league afloat. Fans at the stands or in the seats, they keep uh they keep money coming in also, right? So try and go show your support. I like how you tried to write it out. That's hilarious.
11.
11. He's the 11th player on the field.
Yeah.
Anyways, so again, right, do your part.
I love making you lose track like this mid thought,
I know it's so bad. It's so bad. Robert, thank you for making sure that you tune in. Guys, be like Robert. Tune in, watch the games, even if it's not one of your teams. Watch it. It's football.
It's
right?
football.
We have
It's
football
fun.
year round. This is a golden time in life. When have we ever been able to say that we've had football year round? Right? We've had some spring footballs. We've had some, competition to the NFL. Like back in the '60s and '70s, even in the '80s, right? But we've never been able to say that, to my knowledge, we've never been able to say that we've had year-round football, and we have it now. So let's take advantage of it. Let's keep supporting it. Let's keep it around. Plus, it gives us
Absolutely.
stuff to talk about. So, that being the case, our picks are over on the Horns Forward podcast. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I hope I only go 2-2 this week, and we'll see how everything goes. But with that being the case, BD episode 106 is in the books. Oh, sorry, I just saw something in the private chat that was hilarious. Right here, right? Oh no, see, I didn't make that mistake. I made sure to tell the girlfriend, hey, I'm a football fanatic and we've got football year round. So I'll help you clean.
Yeah.
I'll do the stuff, but football's always going to be on. So just so you know,
Absolutely.
right? Honesty is the best policy. I'm just saying. And with that being the case, BD, you want to give our fans some honest stuff right before we check out?
Man, the only thing I got to say is suck it, DC.
Suck it, DC. Let's go. Horns forward, baby.